How you going, everyone? For those that don't know me, I'm Dan. I'm from Australia. Myself and my partner, who is Luke, he lives in the Netherlands. So I've come across because I'm closer to talk to you today. Just while they're getting our slideshow up, and please, if you can't understand my accent, just stop me and I'll have someone help translate. Or if I'm speaking too fast, just let me know. I want to make this session a little bit more interactive. I don't just want to stand here and talk to you and tell you what I do. What I want you to do from this session is have a game plan to walk away to be able to launch existing campaigns that you have in Europe. And not just into the English-speaking sections of Europe, into the non-English-speaking sections. So that's my goal today. I want it to be an interactive session. I don't just want it to be information that you need to try and listen to and then take away and use. So can I just have a show of hands who currently sells in Europe? Okay. I don't think it's any coincidence that the people that sell in Europe are also the people that mostly received awards today because of the volume that they sell. Okay? So that's what I want. I want the rest of you to learn how to sell in Europe so that we can all attain higher volumes because the marketplace is huge there. Okay, the first thing that I'd like you to do is everyone take out their mobile phone. I'd like everyone to go to the link that's on the screen there. What I want you to do as part of the activity today is I want you to sign up on that page and you'll be sent information that you can use at the end of this session to be able to launch in Europe. Okay, so everyone, if you could get on there now, it should be instant. You'll have to opt into it and confirm that you're not a robot and you'll be sent the document. So it's tninja.eu/Bangkok. Nice and simple. And I'm happy at the end of this as well to provide you with the presentation as well. So I'm more than happy for it to be emailed out to you if you like it. So once you've got that link, has everyone that wants to opt into that to get the document, has everyone got that link now? Can I just have anyone put their hands up that's not ready to move on from this screen? Okay. So why do we sell in Europe? The reason why we sell in Europe is because it's actually a bigger marketplace than the US. Now there are some pros and cons to selling in Europe as opposed to selling in the US. But fundamentally, when we look at the differences, there is nearly 3 times as many people in Europe as what there is in the US. We've got almost 100 million more people on Facebook in Europe as there is in the US. And their economy is a lot bigger. So what that says to us is there's a big opportunity there. Now there's a group of probably 50 to 60 people, probably a lot more than that actually, at least sitting in this room right now. And 4 people put their hand up and said they sell in Europe. Yet, when we look at the statistics, we've got a bigger marketplace there. A big pro for Europe is that it's relatively unsaturated. Now, if we look at the current climate in the US, everyone's complaining because the politicians are spending a lot of money on the platform and that's driving our advertising costs up on Facebook. Guess where there's not an election going on? In Europe. The costs are a lot cheaper over there to advertise because there's a whole lot less competition. Now, here come the cons. Advertising in the US is easier because there's no language barrier. We just use English, we put English designs, English ad copy, English campaign descriptions, retarget them in English. That's an issue in Europe, but that's an issue that I'm going to help you overcome today. With the aid of what you just downloaded, and from what I will tell you today, that is not going to be a barrier for you anymore. The interests in the US are easier to target. Okay, and this comes down to the language barrier again. Not everyone who's German or Italian follows English-speaking pages over in the US. They might be interested in fishing, but they might not follow the pages that are based in the US that are around fishing. Okay? The other big thing is in the US, Facebook buys consumer data. So every time a consumer uses their credit card or a rewards card when they go shopping or when they're getting money out or they're spending online, Facebook buys that data from third-party companies and it puts it into their system. And it uses that consumer data as part of the algorithm when it targets people in the US. Europe doesn't have that. So I'm going to show you how to overcome that barrier as well. So can everyone see the potential here for Europe? Okay? All right. So this is what most people do. Now what most people do that target into Europe is they already have targeting existing in the US. And what they do is they go and they take, for argument's sake, they target motorcycles. That's a niche that we're in. We target people that ride bikes. So what they'll do is they'll take their US-based interest, which is in the millions, and they'll go and they'll take it across to Europe, and they'll put it in there, and it'll come back saying that there's only like about 10,000 people that actually like it. I don't know what's happened to these slides as we brought it across. But here's an example. Is that very clear to you guys there? Because it looks a little bit blurry to me. But if you look here, these are the 6 interests that we use in the US that we know convert. Okay? I think you might be able to see it a bit clearer on there as well. So we've got Biker or Not, BikerPost.com, Chopper Exchange, Harley Owners Club, J&P Cycles and Leathers On. Now when you put those interests into American-based targeting, it brings us back about 2.5 to 3 million people. Now I know that those interests convert in the US because we've been using them for years now. But when you come across to an English-speaking country, such as a group of countries like the United Kingdom, and you put these interests in that give us, in the States, 2.5 to 3 million people, it comes back with 25 to 30,000 people. And that's where most people stop. They'll run some ads at that 25 to 30,000 people, they'll get some sales, but it's not a big enough audience to scale. What you need to do is you need to treat the European countries as a new project. You can't just take what works in the United States and bring it across to Europe. They are different people. They've got different interests. They might have some similar interests to the people in the United States, but American people are vastly different to the people in the UK. You know, what they do, what bikes they ride, what their interests are, where they hang out, what gear they like, what brands they like, it's all different. They're very, very different groups of people. So what you need to do is you need to treat it as if it's a new campaign every time. And the problem gets even worse when you target a non-English speaking country. Here you can see we put the same interest in for Germany. The same interest that give us millions of people in the audience in the United States, but when you take it across to a non-English speaking country like Germany, your potential reach is even less. We've got 10 to 15,000 people as a potential reach. And this is where most marketers stop, because there's no one really teaching you how to target these non-English speaking countries. We look at this and we go, that audience is just too small. We might give it a try, but at the end of the day, we know we're not going to get very far with an audience of only 10 to 15,000 people. So what we need to do is we need to start again. So this is the easiest way for you to enter into Europe. So with the exception of a few specific interests like Second Amendment, there is absolutely no reason why your campaigns can't translate over into Europe easily into an English-speaking country. Okay? So there are some very specific American interests that aren't going to translate, but I'm sure that you all are in more than one niche and that you will have something that you'll be able to bring across. Now we take motorcycles as an example. So this is how we use audience insights with European countries. We look at this, the United Kingdom, we put in motorcycles, and we can see we've got 3 million to 3.5 million people that are interested in motorcycles. Okay? But we saw that when we put the American-based interests that we use in there, it only came back with 25 to 30,000 people. So what's that telling us? It's telling us that our targeting is wrong. It's telling us that there's up to 3 million sorry, up to 3.5 million people that are interested in motorcycles, they're just not interested in the same interest as the Americans. Okay? And this is where this huge potential is that most people miss. So what we need to do is we need to go back. The same way that you did for the American-based research to start with, you need to go back and do the same for the UK. And this is the easiest way for you to take a campaign across to Europe. And you can see, when you look at the likes that are associated with the people that like motorcycles, these are far too general. Okay? These are not specific motorcycle-based interests. So we know that we need to dig a bit deeper. We know we need to do a bit more work. And I think this is where the obstacle is for a lot of people. It just becomes too many steps away from what they're already doing, so they just don't progress with it any further. So we look at that and we go, wow, there's no motorcycle interest there. Audience insights isn't helping us. So what you need to do is you need to put yourself into the mindset of the customer that you're trying to sell products to. And I find the easiest way to do that is to find interests that relate to products that these people are already buying. Does that make sense? Okay. The easiest product to think of that is usually an impulse buy based on this niche is magazines. Okay? They're very specific to that niche. If you don't like motorcycles, you're not going to buy a motorcycle magazine. Okay? So I find that that's always a good place to start. If I get stuck and I'm targeting a country that I know nothing about, I like to start with magazines because it's a physical product, which is what we're selling. It's usually an impulse buy. It's a really low priced item, like we're selling. We're only selling $25 shirts, and that's a good place to start. So what I do is I go back up to the top categories, and there's always a category for magazines. And you'll see here, there's a magazine called Motorcycle News. Now, I had no idea that there was a magazine called Motorcycle News in the UK. But Facebook's actually telling me that there is. So what I do, I go and I remove motorcycles as the interest, put Motorcycle News in, and guess what? It's telling me there's 100 to 150,000 people in the UK that like motorcycles news as a magazine. That's a pretty big following for a magazine, and that's telling us this is news about motorcycles and our group's going to like it. Okay? And then when you look at the page likes, we like to have affinities that are based over 13, and look at the affinities in these. Okay? We've got well and truly over what we need to do. Now, if you look at those interests, there is no way that you would have found those interests just by randomly typing things in. This is Facebook telling us that people that like that magazine, Motorcycle News, specifically like all of these interests. I think we've got about 20 just sitting there, and that's without even expanding the page any further. So we've got a lot of specific interests there that relate specifically to the United Kingdom. So this is the easiest way for you to start. Get your existing campaign that's in English. Use the same image, use the same page, everything that already exists, and just launch a new ad set into the UK after doing the research that's specific to that country. That's the easiest way to get into the European market. Okay? Anyone can do that. Has anyone got any questions about that? It's pretty straightforward, and I know a lot of you are high-end sellers, and that this is something that you probably are looking at and thinking, well, I could have done that anyhow. But it's just a way to say, hey, take action. Go into the European market today, spend 15, 20 minutes doing some research, and it's another way to scale out your existing campaign. All right. Now, when we are looking at scaling into non-English speaking countries, this is where it becomes more difficult. We know that, I'm going to use motorcycles as an example throughout, but universal interests are going to translate around the world. Okay, everyone likes, around the world there's fishing, there's running, there's motorcycles, there's bike riding, there's all of these common interests that everyone shares around the world. So how do we find people who like motorcycle riding in a country like Germany, or a country like Italy or France? The easiest thing to do is start working in their language. Okay? Go to Google Translate, put in something as simple as translate English to German, And that's where you start your key. This is your key word. That is what motorcycle translates to in German. You do the same for Italy, you do the same for France, you do the same for Spain. It's a really, really simple process, but not many people do it. Not many people they'll go in and they'll type in motorcycles for Germany, or they'll type in all the other interests that we have for the US, or ones that we might have found for the UK, and they cannot find an audience big enough. Now, I'll just skip back a couple of slides because I did notice that it was at the beginning. Okay, so remember, this was Germany. When we put in there our known USA-based interests, we've got 10 to 15,000 people. Look now, if we type in Motorrad in Germany, we get 25 million to 30 million active people that like motorcycling in Germany. That's a lot more than the 10 to 15,000 people that we had using the USA-based interests. But look what else pops up when you type in Motorrad. One of my favourite things. Motorrad magazine. Guess what? It's a German-based motorcycle magazine. Okay? And like we said, it's people buying physical products. It's specifically in their language, and it specifically relates to the niche that we're in. So let's skip forward. I don't know how they got out of order, and I apologise. Oh, there it is there again. Okay, so we then put in Motorrad magazine into that research, into the audience insight tool. And it gives us an audience that like this magazine of 200 to 250,000 people, just from one magazine about motorcycles. Tells us the demographics of them. We then look at the page likes. And we come down here, and I find one that's called 1000ps.at. I've got no idea what that means. So this is where you need to dig a little bit deeper. Is it a motorcycle-based interest? There's only one way to find out. Open it up, have a look at it, and you can tell quite clearly this is a German-based motorcycle page. Okay, and you can see there's all our motorcycle brands. There's Harley Davidson, Suzuki, KTM, Ducati, Honda, BMW. These are all of our motorcycle-based niches. Now, if you hadn't have gone and translated what motorcycle translates to in German, you wouldn't have found it. Okay, it would just be hidden there. And this is where you can change what you do and expand your campaigns further. Okay, now you've got a couple of options when you do this. The first option is launch it in English. If you've got a good design that is based around a very common term or phrase, or it's some things just don't translate well, or some things in Germany or Italy or whatever, they like it in the English context. You give it a try using the English-based design that you have. Your second option is you have a whole company who has support teams that will translate your designs for you. Okay, so you go to translations@teespring.com and they will translate your design for you. Send them through half a dozen designs. They have people that speak, I think, 14 different languages. We've got a team of a team of people that can translate 14 languages for you. Okay, so get it translated. The design doesn't need to change. All you need to do is change the text on it. So you go, if you're a designer, you can quickly change that, or you get your designer to change them. It's very simple. Then you've got a German or an Italian or a French-based design on something that you've already done, a proven winner that you already have, that you can now launch to a non-English speaking country. And guess what? There is not many people doing this. This is what, their marketplace is what the American marketplace was in 2013, where there was only a few hundred people selling shirts. The user base on Facebook had not been exposed to shirts before, and all of a sudden there's these very specific targeted designs hitting them, and they were buying them like crazy. We didn't even need to be very good at ad copy or design. We were selling crappy designs just because they hadn't seen them before. And guess what? Places like the Netherlands and Germany and Italy and France, they have not been exposed to the level that the Americans have been exposed to with this t-shirt marketing. So you've got this opportunity to get in there where there's less competition, the consumer hasn't been saturated with it yet, and guess what? The CPMs and the CPCs and all your metrics are a hell of a lot cheaper. We run campaigns into Europe, and depending on the niche that you're in, of course, we have CPMs that sit around $1. Now compare that to some of the American-based interests where your CPMs sit around $12 to $13. You can just see how much further your money goes in that marketplace. Just moving on again, we look a little bit further down. This is Biker Scene Online Motor Ad Portal. I'm going to assume that that's like an online motorcycle forum, and we go and check it, and sure enough, it is an online motorcycle portal. So you can just see the strength of this. I would never have thought to type anything like that into Audience Insights, but because I've gone and translated the word motorcycle, it's brought me all these other opportunities, all these other interests to target. And this is what no one's doing. So you guys have this advantage to be able to go out there and target these countries with your designs. The same thing, you can do it in the dog niche, the cat niche, fishing, running, whatever it might be that you're in. All right. The next biggest thing that you're going to have a problem with in Europe is that Facebook doesn't hold as much data as what they do in the USA. So, there's a couple of practices that we have when we're setting up campaigns in Europe that enable us to, for want of a better term, buy data from Facebook, and then we feed that data back into Facebook so that it can provide, we can get better results out of the algorithm, better conversions. We tell Facebook more specifically what we want. So before we go through this strategy, has anyone got any questions about how to use Audience Insights once you've translated? Has anyone got any questions about that system or that strategy? It's pretty straightforward, isn't it? Is anyone doing that? Has anyone been going and translating their interests and then putting it into Audience Insights to find more interests in that language? I've got one person nodding. Has anyone else been doing that? No? Time to do it. And when you think about it, it's logical, isn't it? And it's simple. There's no expensive software that I'm using. I'm using Google Translate and then the free tool that Facebook provides us. All right. This is all relating to the new Pixel. If you haven't moved off the old Pixel yet, you should. You've only got a very short amount of time before it's going to be made redundant and they're not going to allow you to use it anymore. So I'd be moving across the new Pixel. With the new Pixel, our strategy is we create a new Pixel for every niche that we're in. So we have to create a new ad account for every niche that we're in. So if you're in the motorcycle niche, you're in the nurse niche, you're in the cat niche, you're in the dog niche, 4 different ad accounts. Don't put them all in the one because you're only going to have 1 pixel per ad account. You can create custom conversion events and get very complicated if you like. And there are other ways to share pixels and things like that, but simplistically, the easiest way to do it is just create a new ad account for each niche. That way, that pixel relates to the biker niche, if that's the niche that you're in. Now, the reason that we do that is because every time the pixel fires on each event, so view content, add to cart, purchase, whatever the event might be that it's firing for, it's sending information back to Facebook, to the algorithm, to say, this is the type of customer that has caused this pixel to fire, to take this action. If we have the 1 pixel for 6 or 7 different niches, it's sending 6 or 7 different lots of customer data back to the algorithm, and it's not going to be able to optimise correctly. I don't believe so much that the pixel holds the data, but the pixel is the conduit to telling Facebook's algorithm what to do. So we need to tell it specifically what we want it to do. And I only want people that are interested in motorcycle riding firing that pixel. Okay, so that's what I talk about with the niche-specific customers taking action. I only want a specific pixel for each niche. And what it does is it provides relevant data back to Facebook. Okay, the next thing we need to do, and this is very basic, but we need to create custom audiences. Now, we create custom audiences in various ways. I probably don't need to go through and explain what a custom audience is to the level of sellers that we have here, but the most obvious one is we create custom audiences of the people that hit our webpage. We create a custom audience of buyers. Does anyone else create a custom audience of buyers that have reached your thank you pages? Put your hand up if you create a custom audience of buyers. No one creates a custom audience of their buyers. Okay, there's two reasons that we create a custom audience of our buyers. The first one is that when we retarget people, we exclude that custom audience because we don't need to retarget and waste our money on someone who's already purchased from us. The second reason is we're creating a custom audience of buyers on that niche specific pixel so we can tell Facebook, hey, here is a group of people that have bought in our biker niche. And then we can use that later and I'll show you how. But there's two very good reasons there. The other reason is it's good information to have, especially when you want to test a new product. If you've got an audience of a few thousand buyers that you know have bought from you before and trust you and know that you're reliable and like your designs, that's a good way to test your new product. Just launch an ad straight at the people that have bought off you previously when you launch a new design. The good thing with the custom audiences is by separating your buyers and your people that just click on there as well, is it's telling Facebook who's taken what action. And then you can guide Facebook in the direction that you want it with your ads based on that information. Okay, now Facebook went through this with you. You all know what lookalike audiences are. This is the definition straight from Facebook's own pages. Okay, obviously the smaller the percentage, the more relevant they are to, or more similar they are to your customer. Now what you'll find in Europe, it's very different to the USA with your lookalike audiences. Your lookalike audiences in the US will be in the millions. You go 1%, 2%, it goes up. When you get to 10% lookalike audience, I think you're up close to 10 million people. Now, if you're giving Facebook information on 1,000 people to create a lookalike audience, I'm going to say that a 10% lookalike audience in the US is not going to be overly relevant. It's going to be a little bit far removed from your initial core audience. But in Europe, it's very different. You won't reach those levels. A 10% audience is only about 2.5 million people in the European countries because we're separating them. Each country we treat as like as an individual state within the US, if you want to think of it in those terms. Okay, so you need to provide that relevant data for Germany and Italy. And then when we create these lookalike audiences, they're a hell of a lot more similar than these huge ones that we create in the US. Okay, some other strategies that we have. When you're creating lookalike audiences, this is what we use to create. And the lookalike audiences are the key in Europe because the interests aren't as far-reaching as they are in the US. You saw with the motorcycles, we had 2.5 to 3 million people that I know we can sell to in the US. But we're only in the hundreds of thousands in countries in Europe. Now, all those individual countries added up will be in the millions, but how do we expand further? You saw the data when I put Motorrad in for Germany, it had 3 to 3.5 million people interested in motorcycling. Then we did the interest-based research and it only came back to about 500,000. So how do we reach those other 3 million people when we want to scale? We need to use lookalike audiences, but we need to be smart with the way that we do it. Okay? Now, Facebook in recent times has allowed us to create lookalike audiences off niche-specific pages. Now, most of us have pages that have USA-based customers sitting on them. Okay? I'm a little bit hesitant to rely on a lookalike audience built from a USA-based fan page in a non-English speaking country like Germany or Italy. For the same reasons that they don't have the same interests when you put it in the audience insights. And I don't know what metrics they use to measure how similar they are in the other countries. So, what we like to do, does anyone run likes campaigns to their fan page? Put your hand up if you run likes campaigns to your fan pages. But one person, did anyone used to do it? No? Okay, most of our fan pages are built up from organic sales, like from our advertising when we sell products, our fan pages grow. But they grow for the country that we're building that audience in. And if you go and look at the insights for your page, the majority of your people, if you're selling in America, are going to be American. So I would be reluctant to go and create a lookalike audience in Germany based on American consumer data. Okay? So what you do is you run very, very cheap likes campaigns. Okay? Facebook told us that their seed audience that they like to have for you to create a lookalike to be effective is 1,000 to 50,000 people, or 1,000 to 50,000 fires on a pixel, or a custom audience. Okay? So you've got to build these assets. And what I'm telling you is that contact translations at Teespring, get a very basic like campaign up and running, and target it into the specific country that you want to reach and that you want to get customers. Because what you want to do is you want to build up your following in that country, because you want Facebook to use that data to build a lookalike audience. Let's use Germany as an example. If you take your USA page and it's got 0 people that are German on it, start a likes campaign in Germany. You can get likes for 1 cent, for a penny, because no one else is doing it. There's one person in this room running a likes campaign. No one sees any reason to run them. And until we started selling in Europe, I thought that they were a waste of money as well, because it's not a popularity contest. I don't care how many fans are on my page, all I want is conversions. Fans are a byproduct of me selling things, that's the way I used to think of it. But if you think of it that you can specifically target people to like your page using the strategies that we used by translating the word motorcycles, go and get those people to like your page. Then you go and create the lookalike audience base from that page, and Facebook has data from Germans who like motorcycling. And it's going to create a much more powerful lookalike audience and a much more relevant lookalike audience that you can then use to sell stuff to those people. And that is how we reached that gap that we had, where we had 500,000 people that were like the interest that we had, but we knew that there was up to 3.5 million people that like motorcycles. Well, guess what? We start feeding good data into Facebook by buying likes. That's what I mean by buying data. We're buying this data. It doesn't cost much at all. You can run a $2 a day ad campaign to get likes, and you'll get hundreds of likes a day on top of what you normally gain. Once you've got enough German people on there, create the lookalike audience, or whatever country you're targeting. Same with the niche specific pixel. You want the pixel to be firing. You want it to be firing several hundred times before you say to Facebook, create a lookalike page. Now, it doesn't have to be for a conversion. It doesn't have to be a purchase event. It can just be for view content. Okay, if you've got people that are clicking through onto the web page, then you know you've got a potential customer there. They might not be someone who buys, but you know, you've got someone who's in that country, speaks that language, likes those interests, and has taken the time to click on your ad. So they're going to fire that pixel. We'll create a lookalike audience from that. This niche-specific custom audiences. Same deal. Build those custom audiences that people land on your page. Customer emails. Okay? You either get the hashed emails, which I believe that we've solved the problem of being able to import them into your audience section within Facebook, so you can create a custom audience there. Or if you're a platinum seller, you actually get the actual emails of the customer. Put those into Facebook. Create a custom audience of that. The other thing is, create a buyer custom audience. Like I was saying, you need to create a buyer custom audience. There's a couple of reasons for that, and I'll show you why as we go through. Okay, like we talked about, the higher the percentage, the less likely they are to be similar to the core group of people that you've started the lookalike audience from. Am I pushing the wrong way? Okay, so how do we use these lookalike audiences? There's several ways that we use them. What you need to do though is you need to make sure, previously what we used to do was we duplicate ads, but what you need to do now is you need to make sure that you don't overlap your audiences. So if you're targeting with interest to start with, you start to get a few sales, you want to start scaling up, you create a 1% lookalike audience for the country that you're in. Use only the percentage in the country. However, if you are also running an interest-based ad, exclude those interests. okay? Because you don't want those audience overlapping. Because what you'll end up doing, you're in an auction for that ad space, and you'll be in an auction with yourself. Okay, so you're going to be pushing your ad prices up because you're competing with yourself for ad space. Then what you can do is if you find that the interests die out, you can then use the lookalike audience and then put in your 4 top converting interests in the country. You can then further split that by 1 interest in a country. So there's a lot of variations that you can do there with the lookalike audiences. But we always test with the lookalike audiences, excluding any current ads that we're running. And that then goes for when you start to scale up to 2%, 3%, 4%, 5%, exclude the percentages before the one that you're putting up there, for that same reason. There's no if you advertise to 1% and 2% and 3%, the 3% audience is also going to be targeting the people that are in your 2% and 1% audience. They form part of that 3%. So exclude those out of it. Okay, and then the same way that the Facebook, I can't remember her name, Mod, was showing you the Facebook ads reports. If you want to look at splitting it further, you can drill down to age, gender, device, even the time of day that they're buying. And these are further ways that you can scale out in Europe. All this information is available to us once we've started putting the good data into Facebook. This data doesn't exist, this scaling ability doesn't exist until we start putting good information into Facebook. Now, this brings us to our newest strategy. We need to fill in information gaps, okay? Before I get on to what we do with the buyer custom audiences, who uses, put your hand up if you use videos to sell your shirts. One person uses videos. This is a common theme. If you're in a room full of smart people and a question gets asked and only 1 or 2 people put their hand up to say they're doing that, what do you think you should do? Do it. Okay? Doesn't have to be very hard. You can go into Ad Factory. Everyone know what Ad Factory is? The free ads tool that Teespring has a contract with. You can click on it and go into it. Does everyone know what Ad Factory is? Yeah. Never heard Ad Factory. Guys, you need to send an email out to all of these sellers to show them what Ad Factory is. Okay, we've got a room full of gold and platinum and silver and bronze sellers that don't know what Ad Factory is. It is a free tool that Teespring pay for us to be able to create ads. Okay? It's a piece of software. You plug the Teespring URL in, it drags all of the shirts into there. You can put custom backgrounds, you can put buttons, you can make videos in there, you can do all sorts of things. Okay, so I would encourage the regional Teespring staff to get that information out to you. It is available there, it's just a simple email just to show you where the link is. Okay, this is the way that we create massive custom audiences in Europe. You need to create a video. It's really easy to do. I'd be writing this down. Create a 30-second video of your products in that niche. Don't make it about a funny video about a dog or a roller coaster ride or whatever it might be. It has to be specific to your niche. It has to resonate with the people that you're targeting. Set that ad up, put it on your page, set that ad up as a video view campaign in your advertising, in your ads manager or Power or whatever you choose to use. Doesn't have to have fancy music, doesn't need to be edited very well, it can just be slides, just transitioning for 30 seconds. That's all you need. Set it up for video views, then go into your audience section, create a custom audience of people that have watched that ad for 95% of the time. That's the longest amount of time that will allow you to create a custom audience for. So you're going into Germany with your interest, there's not a hell of a lot of people there. You're like, oh, what am I going to do? But you know that there are a lot of people that are interested in it. You just can't find those interests. And this is how we build massive custom audiences. Show them a video. Make it very clear that you're selling stuff to them, that it's shirts. Put your coolest designs up there, or just one design in a lot of variations with hoodies or colours or singlets or whatever it is that you're selling to them. Create a custom audience of those people. Retarget those people with an ad. But also, the most important thing is create a lookalike audience of those people. Now, lookalike audiences are dynamic. So what does that mean? What that means is Facebook constantly updates them. If you keep feeding information into the lookalike audience, Facebook will continue to update and improve the quality of that lookalike audience. So what do you think we do with our video ads for video views? And I'm talking we get video views for less than 1 cent. People viewing our ads for like half a cent. We leave them running. We'll run an ad, an ad to that lookalike audience that we've created from those video views, and we will constantly keep feeding. Think of it like a funnel. We keep feeding a huge amount of people through the top end of our funnel. And what we're doing is we're filtering out the people that are interested in our product. And we're putting them in a production line. Once they've watched 95% of their video, you know they're interested because they've stopped scrolling and they've watched your video. Not just for a second because they're on autoplay, not just for 10 seconds to see what it is out of curiosity. They've watched the whole thing. You're then feeding them into this lookalike audience. And we have a constant flow of views going through into our lookalike audiences. And have a guess what our best performing lookalike audiences are. They're the ones we create from our video views. Get some videos up and test it. Include a link in your description of that video, because sometimes people will just like the stuff that much they'll want to click through. Include a link in your comments as well. But don't set the ad up for conversions. Don't set it up to try and sell anything. You set it up for video views. And when you set it up for video views, Facebook sends you traffic for dirt cheap. You know, if you can get 2 people watching your video for 1 cent, and then you're feeding them into a lookalike audience that is then converting for you, and we get conversions off the video views as well. I don't really care whether we do or not, but they happen. People just like the product and click through. So we've got lookalike audiences we create off the custom audience for the videos. We've got lookalike audiences we create off the niche pixel that we've created. We've got lookalike audiences off the fan page that we have that we've been buying likes for in that specific country. And we've got lookalike audiences from the customer emails. Now, we also have a lookalike audience from our buyers. Now remember what I said at the beginning. Facebook doesn't buy consumer data in Europe. Facebook buys consumer data for the USA. So it knows about the spending habits of the USA citizens, the USA users. It knows whether they spend online, whether they spend more than the average person, what the demographics are. And this frustrated me that they didn't have this information for Europe. So what I figured was, why don't I just tell Facebook what my customers like? Why don't I tell them about the spending habits of my customers? And the easiest way to do that is I create a custom audience of my buyers. So people that have reached the thank you page. Okay? Now, that custom audience of buyers, if you're in a few different niches, it's going to have buyers from a lot of different niches. So the way that we overcome that problem is we layer it with our interests that we already know work. Does that make sense to people? So we're going to create a custom audience, and we all should have a custom audience if you had been doing it from the start. Been sold over 50,000 shirts. He would have a custom audience of buyers of at least 40,000 if you take out the multiple purchases from single customers and they've taken the Facebook works properly. Can you imagine how powerful that custom audience would be if you feed that back into Facebook and you say, hey Facebook, create a lookalike audience of these 40,000 people that have bought from me. Not that have liked my page or watched a video, that have bought from me. And that's the data that we want. We want it to find people similar to our buyers. And we then tell Facebook, find people that are similar to these buyers, but then also we layer it with the interests there. That's important. Otherwise, it's going to find buyers in a lot of different niches, which is not helpful to us. So I'd layer it with the biker interests that we've got. Then what you can do is you can further layer those interests with something called online shopping. There's a category on there for online shopping. Now, how super targeted is that? You've got a custom audience of buyers, you turn into a lookalike audience, you then say to Facebook, go and find these people that also have an interest in motorcycles and also have an interest in online shopping. You'll be surprised how many hundreds of thousands that group will still be, but how targeted is it? Same with your niche pixel. Your niche pixel, you don't have to layer with your interest because it's going out and it's finding people that are relevant to your niche because that niche pixel has only been firing when people are in your biker niche or whatever your niche is. Another way that we do it, go and layer it with e-commerce sites such as Teespring. Teespring's got a huge following. They're a household name in America now. Layer that lookalike audience with Teespring. Or, there's even one on there that says t-shirts. Okay, it's a big industry. Facebook holds a lot of data on it now. You can do it for other ones as well, like Sunfrog or T-Chip. No, don't do T-Chip. But you can see what I mean. The more relevant information you give Facebook, the better their algorithm can work. It's a really smart algorithm. Just use it to your advantage. Don't just throw stuff out there. Be very strategic. And then if you want as well, you can also layer deeper with interest. I do that further down the track. If you're looking at various ways to scale things even further, there's always those little pockets that you can find, when you're just trying to squeeze everything out of a campaign. And that is how we target in Europe and how we sell so much in Europe. So what you should be able to do now is if you open up your phone where you opted in to start with, and we'll go back there to the beginning. Could you flick it back to that beginning screen? What you'll have in there is you'll have a PDF that you should be able to download now. Now, that PDF has your ad copy, your campaign description, and your retargeting ad copy in 14 different languages for you. So there's no excuses as to why you can't go and launch in Europe right now. You can go and launch your English-speaking design in Europe today. You could do it if you've got a campaign live and you've got ads running in the US. Go and launch it on Teespring EU. Launch a separate campaign. Okay, you can message Teespring and they will link the campaigns onto one URL, so you can continue to use that one URL. But you want the European ones. You want the European-based sales being fulfilled by Teespring EU. Delivery cost is cheaper and delivery time is a lot shorter. Okay, so go over to the UK. Take the path of least resistance. Take your existing English-based ad copy, campaign description and shirt design, sell it in the UK. Then, email translations@teespring.com and you say, can you translate this shirt design, just give them the wording to it, into these 6 languages. And go and launch 6 campaigns. Use the campaign description and the ad copy that I've just sent you to be able to launch in those countries. I'll make these slides available. I'm happy for you all to receive them, to follow those steps through again. I'll fix up the order of those slides. I don't know why that's mixed up for you. But there's absolutely no reason why you... And think about this. I find, and you can either agree or disagree with me, I find sometimes when I'm running this business, the hardest thing for me to do is to come up with new ideas. Is that a common problem that people find? Just put your hand up if you find trying to come up with a new cool idea that's going to be your next big seller. Is that something that you spend a lot of time doing? Yes? I've just given you a way to take your one cool idea that you already have and scale it out 14 different ways without changing the design, without doing any more research, by sending one email to Teespring and getting a designer to change just the text on your design. So every one design that you've got a winner for in the US, potentially you have 14 other campaigns that you can launch around the world, all over Europe, in all those different languages. Now that should be pretty exciting, because it's a hell of a lot less work. You've got a company that's willing to translate it for you. If you're the designer for your business, then you've got a little bit of work to do. Other than that, you give it to your designer, I guarantee you, if they've got the PSD files, they'll be able to change that very, very quickly for you. Because you're not going to have to change a hell of a lot. Then all you've got to do is spend 15 to 20 to 30 minutes doing the research for each country. And guess what? You've got a new system on how to scale your business out even further. Now I know that the guys that I spoke to in Vietnam about this in July. Ben, did it work for you?
Yes, it was very much.
Yeah, so a week or two after we went through a lot of these strategies, and I've given you actually more now, Ben came back to me and said, it works. You got through to, in the latest Teespring contest, you got up to the 6th tier, didn't you? In the, what was the last Teespring contest called? The TX contest. You got right up to the top tier, didn't you?
Yeah.
And I remember about halfway through he messaged and said it almost seems impossible to get to that top tier. Okay, now that means I think it was like 600% growth on your normal sales, and I hope that a lot of those sales came from taking your business across into Europe. Okay? It works. Now, we're also tied up with the USA, and I was too. And I don't know why. You know, I'm from Australia. I know very little about United States culture, about American culture. No one in this room's from the United States except for Bridget. Yet we're all stuck in this mindset that we need to sell in the United States. The United States is great to sell in, but it's very saturated. There's another bigger market that we can target. That's pretty much all I've got in terms of what we do. That's the hour. But I'm happy to answer any questions. And I hope that if you have downloaded that PDF that you do use it. It's very straightforward. All the translations are exactly the same wording that the English-based translation. On page 2 it's the English-based translations. All the translations in the other languages are identical to what is written up the top there. So it's a good starting point. You can go and get other translations done, but it's just a great starting point for you to be able to launch. So has anyone got any questions? Yep.
Yeah, for example, I'm like very beginners here. As we say, U.S. market is saturated.
Yep.
For beginners, should I start from U.S. market first? It should be easier, or it's already like fully great ocean, so I should shift to Europe market, which is better for beginners?
Honestly, I think the USA market is an easier one to learn. However, I think if you can learn the process and come up with a system and do it in the US, that especially as a beginner, the next logical step should be for you is to launch, if it's a campaign that's winning, launch it into Europe. Think about I've launched thousands of campaigns, and I wish at the beginning of all this that I was launching into Europe. Could have probably tripled our money that we've made. But instead we were stuck with the US. And it wasn't until I partnered with Luke, who's based in Europe, that it sort of triggered with me, well, why don't we try some foreign designs, because I had a Dutch-speaking partner. And then when I started digging around, I was like, oh, there's nothing there. And then I thought, no, there has to be something there. It's not like these people are aliens, like they don't like the same things that we like. You know, they've got to have the same interests as us. There's just got to be a way to find them. And this is the system we developed, that we've refined over the last 18 months. So definitely, you test in the USA, but our scaling strategy doesn't just involve doing lookalike audiences and scaling out interest and scaling budgets up. We will hit all around the world. That's part of our scaling strategy. If we know people are interested in that niche, we will scale around the world. using Teespring EU because of the delivery times. Any other questions? Is everyone going to go and try target Europe now? You are. Okay.